What if the most famous potato snack in America was named by someone history almost forgot? Today, we uncover the hidden story behind Tater Tots and the people erased from its origin. Stay with me. You think you know the Tater Tot story. Two broke brothers, a pile of potato scraps nobody wanted, a stroke of genius that turned trash into a snack food empire. It's a great story. It's on the company's own website. It's in every listicle, every trivia night answer, every did you know caption. It's also missing two people. One of them is the person who actually named the product you eat. And for 70 years, almost nobody has said her name on camera. Tonight, we're saying it. Let's start with the part everyone gets right, because even that part is stranger than the marketing makes it sound. In the early 1950s, two brothers named Nephi and Golden Grigg ran a frozen food plant on the Oregon-Idaho border. Their big product was frozen French fries. Fries need long, clean potato strips. That process leaves behind a mountain of ragged leftover slivers. Not garbage exactly, but not sellable either. For a while, the scraps went to cattle. Then the cattle started getting too fat on all that starch, so the farmers said no thanks. Now the brothers had a growing pile of potato waste and nowhere to put it. Nephi Grigg hated watching it go to waste, so he and Golden started experimenting. Mix the scraps with flour and seasoning. Push the mixture through holes drilled in a plywood board. Fry it, freeze it. They called that board the Holy Board. A sign painter's typo turned it into the Holy Board, which is now framed behind glass at company headquarters like a religious relic. Cute story. Company loves telling it. Here's what the company website doesn't put on the timeline graphic. This wasn't a two-man operation. Every retelling of this story says two brothers, two scrappy guys, underdog energy, easy to root for. Ore-Ida's own official company history says something different. It names four people behind the Tater Tot: Nephi Grigg, Golden Grigg, and two more names that almost never make it into the YouTube explainer video or the trivia app. A third brother, Otis Grigg, and a business partner, Ross Butler Sr. Four people, not two. So why does almost every retelling drop it to two? Because two brothers against the world is a better story than four business partners split a patent. Nobody wants to sit through an org chart. They want an underdog. That's not a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and voted to erase Otis Grigg. It's smaller than that, and in some ways worse. It's just easier to tell the story with fewer names. Convenient forgetting doesn't need a villain. It just needs a marketing team in a hurry. But watch what happens once a company starts trimming names from its own origin story for convenience. It doesn't stop at two brothers. It gets worse, because the person who gave this product its actual name isn't a Grigg at all. Picture a factory floor in Ontario, Oregon, sometime in the mid-1950s. The Grigg brothers have a new frozen potato product. It works, it tastes good, it just doesn't have a name yet. So they do something smart. They open a contest. Employees and friends can submit name ideas. An Ore-Ida employee named Clora Lay Orton enters. Her submission wins. Tater Tots. 2 words, both trademarked, both now sitting in supermarket freezers on every continent that has electricity. Say her name again, Clora Lay Orton. If you've watched 100 Tater Tot explainer videos, there's a decent chance you've never once heard it. Because here's what actually happened to her contribution over the decades. It got folded into the Grigg story. The Griggs named it Tater Tots is the version that survives in most retellings, even though the naming, by the company's own account, came from a contest and the winning entry came from an employee, not an owner.
This is not a case of active theft. Nobody has ever, as far as the record shows, claimed Clora Orton didn't win that contest. What happened to her is quieter and, frankly, more common. Her name simply stopped getting repeated. And a name that stops getting repeated eventually disappears. Not through a lie, but through 1,000 small omissions, each one too small to notice on its own. That's the pattern this channel keeps finding, dish after dish. It's rarely a single dramatic theft. It's erosion. A footnote that gets cut for time. A credit that gets shortened for a headline. 50 years of that, and the employee who named the product is a trivia night stump question, while the owner's names are on the building. But Clora Orton's disappearance isn't even the most telling part of this story. The most telling part is what the company chose to do with the name itself once it belonged to nobody but the corporation. Our Idea trademarked the name Tater Tots almost immediately. Think about what that means. The two words an employee wrote down on a contest entry became, within a few years, a piece of legal property. Every competitor who wanted to sell the same potato shape had to call it something else: tater puffs, tater treats, potato gems, spud puppies in one country, mash tags in another. One name became a wall other companies had to build around. And the woman who wrote that winning entry? No royalty, no ongoing credit line on the packaging, no named product feature, just a company anecdote trotted out occasionally in press materials, usually as a charming aside rather than a headline. Compare that to how the Griggs are remembered. Their names are on Wikipedia info boxes. Their descendants run tater tot festivals in Idaho. There's a replica of the Holy Board behind glass at company headquarters, a literal shrine to two men's ingenuity. Where's the shrine to the contest board Clora Orton's entry was pinned to? It doesn't exist, because nobody thought to build one. And that's the injustice this channel keeps circling back to, dish after dish, decade after decade. Credit doesn't follow who did the work, it follows who owned the company doing the crediting. The brothers owned the plant, the brothers owned the trademark, the brothers eventually owned the story. And once a company owns the story, it gets to decide who's a footnote and who's a founder. Here's the part that should bother you more than the history itself. This isn't a story about the 1950s, it's a story about right now. Go look up who invented tater tots today. Type it into a search engine, read the first 5 results. Count how many mention Clora Lay Orton by name. Most don't. Most repeat the Grigg brothers and stop there, the same 2-name version that was already trimming the record down 70 years ago. The convenient version didn't just survive. The internet copied it, article after article, each writer pulling from the last one instead of the company's own history page. That's how convenient forgetting becomes permanent. Not through one person deciding to erase someone, through 1,000 people, decades apart, repeating whatever version was easiest to find. Clora Orton isn't unique. She's not even the most dramatic example this channel has covered, but that's exactly why she matters. If a woman working at an American company in the 1950s, with her name sitting right there in the company's own archives, can still get erased from her own contribution, imagine how much easier it is to erase the people with far less institutional paper trail behind them, the ones without a company history page keeping their name alive at all. Clora Orton got remembered by accident, buried in a footnote nobody reads. Most people in her position don't get even that. So here's the story you actually walked into tonight. Not 2 brothers turned garbage into gold, that's the trailer, not the movie. The real story: 4 people built the product, 1 employee named it, a trademark locked that name away from everyone who wasn't an owner, and 70 years of retellings quietly agreed to remember 2 names and forget the rest. Tater Tots aren't a rags to riches story about scrappy brothers. They're a masterclass in how a name can travel from an employee's contest entry to a billion-dollar trademark without the employee's name ever making the trip with it. Next time someone at the table says, "Did you know 2 brothers invented tater tots?" you'll know the real number is 4. And you'll know the 5th name, the one that actually named the thing you're eating, was Clora Lay Orton. Say it. It's the least 70 years owed her. See you all in next video. Bye.